Hi, in this platform today we will be discussing a little bit, rather to say I will be delivering some elementary information on a competitive exam in India, that is GATE, which is already written on board. So perhaps you are aware of this term, and by now you must be knowing little bit what is GATE, what are the scopes. So I think it will be really a good approach if I consolidate everything in a single short lecture that will be helping you out to take many important decisions for your career. So the GATE is what? Graduate Aptitude Test in Engineering. Generally, the people who are studying undergrad in an engineering discipline, BE, BTech, etc., generally they have a kind of vision to take this exam to get a good entry to their higher studies. So before going to the details, a very quick and crisp overview that if you are currently a student of BTech or B program, so what are the options in a very crude approach which becomes available to you after you finish your graduation. So suppose you are now a BTech student in your third or fourth year. After that, either you go for your higher studies or you go for a job. So this is a very general perspective that comes in the mind of an engineering student. Now, being in the stream of biotechnology, perhaps you are aware that currently Indian system really have no good scopes for BTech biotechnology people to give good jobs, or you may be having the options to go to IT job. But coming to a personal note, I did my engineering in biotechnology, and really trust me, I had no thoughts or I didn't have any plan to take a job of IT after studying 4 years biotechnology. So if you are also having the same opinion, I'm sure many of you are thinking that yes, you want to pursue your higher studies and basically you want to stick to this particular biotechnology stream to have a very bright career. So what this is the option for doing higher studies. Here comes the utility of the GATE score. If you are having a good GATE score, you can have access to your PG program. That is, you are now doing your BTech or BE in biotechnology. It will be really worth if you are going to your masters. So this much information I think you all have, that if I have a good GATE score, many premier options for many premier institutes become open in front of us. But what extra? That means a question might come to your mind that if I have a good GATE score, so is it the thing that I will be only able to access postgraduate programs, that is MTech or ME? No. A very clear-cut answer is no. If you have a good GATE score, apart from having your PG, that is MTech or ME or MS programs in India, there are still two more options. Number one, you may skip, if you are planning a career in research, you can skip your PG degree and can directly go for your PhD studies in India. And this is definitely not the end. Some European, and I would particularly mention some universities of Singapore, which is a very coveted destination from Indian students these days, and definitely some European universities, they give priority to those students for their PhD program who are having a good GATE score. So that means if you have a good GATE score, you have the direct option to go to your PG studies in India. Next, there are scopes to skip your PG degree and you can directly go for your PhD program in NITs, IITs and many of the premier institutes. And finally, you have the option to study abroad. Generally, I will just give a quick comparison. I think you think that for going abroad and study, the basic exams that you need to take is GRE, TOEFL, IELTS, etc., etc. But I think this information will be really helpful for you to learn that even if you are having a GATE score, there are still some options for coming to abroad university. If you compare it with the other case, like suppose you are after your BTech or BE, you are writing for your GRE, TOEFL, these options are absolutely invalid. But if you have GATE score, these options are still open, and at the same time, this option becomes open. So I think this is a very good thing, particularly for biotechnology people, and these Singapore European universities are very, I mentioned this from my personal experiences, these institutes are really very much welcoming these days to Indian students. So you can definitely have this option in front of you. Now, apart from that, if I just give you a small information, it's not that for biotechnology people, the job market is absolutely becomes off if you have a GATE score. There are few chances, I just give you two names, that is, nowadays in different central government institutes, there is a position called technical officer or scientific officer, and there is another program called PGRPE, that is Postgraduate Research Program in Engineering. Although these two are not very foolproof things, but still if you have a good GATE score, you have a chance, being a biotech engineer, to get into some of the institutes as a technical officer, or this is a program under CSIR, that if you have a good GATE score, you can get enrolled to this research program, and eventually there are definitely some parameters, some evaluation processes. If you are through with that, you have a fair chance of getting a job. So that means if you have a good GATE score, the entire thing, the higher studies in India, some portion of the world will be welcoming you, and still you have a chance to get a job. That means you can, from this particular representation, I think it is very clear to you that if you have a handsome rank in GATE, there are multiple options opening in front of you for your very desired career. So, if I continue, from this part, the take-home message was, in order to get accessibility to this entire portion, you need to have a handsome score in GATE. So obviously the next question that comes to your mind, what is the definition of a handsome score? What do I mean by handsome score? So let's check. So to give you an idea about what is a handsome score, let's draw something in the beginning. Since this is an exam, obviously you will be having a full marks, just like any typical examination. So yes, so for the GATE paper, the full marks is 100. That means you can have a marks between 0 to 100. This is the range. Now, the obvious question that I was discussing, what is an handsome score? Yes, I think you all will be agreeing that for a competitive exam, there is no typical handsome score. If you are having 100, that is an absolute perfection, which is difficult but not impossible. So we will be coming back to this later. So from the past few experiences or the results of the previous GATE papers, the general trend is for biotechnology paper, the cutoff, definitely, I am sure you all know what is cutoff score. If you go beyond cutoff, you are called qualified. Generally, this cutoff score is in the range of say 27 to 32 generally. So if you are able to get something beyond, you are qualifying the gate. So below this cutoff score, obviously your score is not valid. So the next thing is, so for the time being I am considering, let's say for your year cutoff is somewhere near 35. Just take an example. Okay. So now the obvious question is, perhaps you know there are many terms. Number one is score, as I already mentioned, marks, rank, percentile, and etc. But this part should be very, very clear to you for your self-evaluation. All these three parameters like score, rank, and percentile, that you cannot speculate when you are writing the exam, because calculation of these three terms depend on a very, very complicated statistical formula which is having contributions from the candidates who are taking other papers. What is the highest mark? Say for example you are writing a gate for biotechnology. Say in your year there are 30,000 candidates. In that year might be an electrical engineering paper is having 1 lakh candidates. So all these things will be calculated by the gate committee to decide what is your score, what is your rank, what is your percentile. So in that case, how to define again the same question and hands-on score? Typically, our recommendation would be you try to have a marks. Please point, like highlight here, I am talking about marks here, because you can only calculate how much you can get out of 100. You cannot calculate score, you cannot calculate rank, you cannot calculate percentile. But only thing is, it is in your hand. I mean, say for example, you have 10 questions of 2 marks. If you have correctly answered them, you are sure on getting 20 marks. But you cannot say, if I am sure on 20 marks, what will be my score, what will be my rank. So you must be paying attention over this particular thing. So typically, if you have marks in the range of say around 60 out of 100, which is really not a rocket science. Trust me, I repeat, it's not a rocket science. It's very possible to have something beyond 60. So if you can cross a marks of 60, it is a fairly decent score. But obviously, a person who will be getting 80, he is more handsome than 60 guy, and who will be getting 55, he will be less handsome than 60. But still, this marks range is really a handsome score to get into the IITs, NITs, and many of the premier institutes. So the take-home message is from this today's interaction. Number one, if you are having a handsome marks in GATE, you have the options to go to your higher studies as well as a small domain of job, that too from biotechnology field, becomes open in front of you. And the second take-home message is you should be targeting to have a marks in the range of 55 to 60 to get into all the decent IITs for your PG or PhD programs. So I think from this interaction it is very clear to you that what are the prospects that becomes open in front of biotechnology people who are doing engineering, and if they are writing a GATE exam and if they are able to crack the exam, what are the career options. So I hope it is now clear to you. I will be looking forward to having some more interactions with you in future. Wish you a very good luck for your career. Thank you.